In the 1700s, most enslaved people in New Orleans had been born in Africa, especially in the Senegambia region. The French colonists brought them to the lower part of the Louisiana Territory, land that was already occupied by the Natchez, Houma, Biloxi, Choctaw, and Chitimacha, among many other native nations, to participate in wars against native people and the claiming of their land for France. The Louisiana colony experienced over 80 years of famine, hurricanes, disease, economic failures, wars with native peoples, slave uprisings, and a 4-decade occupation by the Spanish. In 1803, the French sold the troublesome territory to the United States, doubling the size of the new nation and solidifying the rise of antebellum slavery. The Americans who began migrating to the city were outnumbered by whites and free blacks fleeing the Haitian Revolution, who forced their enslaved human property to accompany them. By 1815, the majority of the city's population was composed of French speakers, 2/3 of whom were partial or full African descent, and who together formed the basis for the city's interracial Creole community, those born in Louisiana who identified with the uniquely developing African, Native, French, and Spanish culture here. New Orleans' geographic position between the Mississippi River and the Gulf of Mexico made it the leading southern port and the economic capital of the South, the nation's wealthiest region until the Civil War. The city also held the South's largest slave market. New Orleans' wealth was rooted in the domestic slave trade and in the movement of slave-produced goods, cotton and sugar most importantly, as well as the import and export of agriculture and manufactured goods up and down the Mississippi River, along the Gulf Coast, and across the Atlantic world. As a global hub, the city saw continuous flows of people and goods, especially from the Americas, West Africa, and Europe. The need to improve the city's infrastructure, as well as the possibility for great wealth, encouraged white European and American migrants to the city and its hinterland as laborers, merchants, and enslavers, even as repeated epidemics, yellow fever, malaria, and cholera, meant that the city had the highest death rate in the nation. By the 1830s, these migrants had begun to outnumber the city's native French speakers, although French Creole language and the culture remained a strong part of the city. By 1850, the urban population of people of African descent began to decline across the U.S. as enslavers moved enslaved people to rural plantations. At the same time, free blacks, fearful of re-enslavement in the wake of the 1850 Fugitive Slave Law, fled urban areas or the U.S. altogether. By 1860, the population of enslaved and free blacks was drastically reduced in New Orleans relative to the total population. The enslaved population was around 8% in the city, though it was closer to 47% in the rest of Louisiana. The Gallier household reflected the complex cultural and economic changes that New Orleanians experienced during this time. James Gallier Jr. was born in England. His wife, Agale Villavasso, was born to French-speaking Louisiana Creoles, and the Galliers primarily spoke French in their home. Consequently, those enslaved by the Galliers would have spoken French as well. Laurette, Rose, Julienne, and François were probably born in Louisiana. They may have had ancestral ties from Louisiana, Saint-Domingue, now Haiti, or other French-speaking parts of the Caribbean.